Hello, we are back. This is Jay Calicon. I'm joined by AI superstar Jamie Abrahams of Freely Give. And we are back to talk about AI in Drupal. Now, Jamie, we talked a while ago. I think it's been maybe 2 months. And little did I know at that time that you had this top secret AI stuff that you were working on with Dries. So I'm really excited to catch up with you, see what you've been working on. So why don't we just dive right in and you show off some of the stuff that you've been working on and you know uh, talk about it.
Cool. Yeah. I'll present my screen again.
Okay.
Can we just dive into showing stuff off?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is what we showed off. It's a live demo, so we'll see if this works well. But it's Drupal CMS. A lot of it's in a branch at the moment, but we're working on getting it into Drupal CMS itself, so you'll be able to download it yourself and get started with these agents. And the thing we demoed was using agents to change configuration in Drupal. So this is an event recipe. And the thing we did in the demo, let's see if everything will work well, is we had a character called Sarah, who she was a marketing person, not a developer, didn't have access to developer resources, but wanted to get started with Drupal and gets through Starshot, gets everything set up. But she still doesn't know how to use Drupal yet. So the AI thing helps her. So let's start. She wanted to make a wine tour. So we're going to create an event. We're going to change it to wine tours. So can you change the label? Yeah, and so one of the things that has changed, as you can see now, okay, broken.
I love live demos. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Do you want to start again and not bother with a live demo?
Nah, whatever. No, I think it's good. I like it. Let's keep it.
Okay, well, we'll keep it. And what I'm going to do is, in the background, whilst we're working on this, I'll tell Marcus about this, and we'll see if we can get it fixed and go back to the live demo. Um,
Okay, that's fine. Well, let's talk about it. Um, Yeah, so the big thing was from the Driesnote was that he demoed the chatbot. I think was the real crowd pleaser, and then we also had the content migration thing, which I want to talk about as well. So let me ask this: how long have you been working on all this?
I mean, in some sense, we've been working on this for like a year and a half in some level. We only really joined the Starshot initiative around August. So we haven't been doing, like, last time I spoke to you, it wasn't like I was secretly doing stuff with Dries. It was actually the case that I was chatting
Okay.
to anyone. I had some videos about agents. So I think I might have even shown you, but like one of the first things we put on our website was using agents to take a doodle of a web form and upload an image of it, and it would then create the web form. And back then, that UI was a like a mini Kanban style thing, and I still really like that as a demo because the mini Kanban thing helps you understand how the agents are working behind the scenes, the way that they separate the roles. You have project manager agents that assign tasks to other agents. Some agents have the ability to like read stuff and take in information. Others have the ability to implement it. So we've got like a web form agent in that video, but here,
Yeah.
if this were to work, the one that we showed now, that would be like a content type agent, field agent, taxonomy agent. Yeah, so that was something we were showing everyone, and we're talking to. I've been always trying to find out like what do people find cool, because I love everything AI related. So I don't know what other people would want to pay for, what they find useful. And so we showed people a variety of different demos, and the AI agents really hit a chord with Acquia, and then a lot of different people at Acquia, and then also Dries eventually saw some of our demos and got excited by it for Starshot. Originally, we were going to make it so it just created content using the AI agents.
Yeah.
That would be a lot easier. Like if we just had it so that you uploaded a PDF, clicked a button, and it created the content types. There's no prompting there. There's no weirdness of the end user messing things up. But the problem is with Starshot is it's got loads of really good starter packs, the recipes. That's the whole point. So creating content types from scratch wasn't exciting compared to editing them. And so Dries pushed it towards the chatbot approach that I try to demo now.
Yeah.
And it's way harder, like way more likely to get things wrong.
Right.
And so we've had to put a lot of work to make it robust. But also, what was interesting to me was it was both harder and easier. With the speed at which we were able to do things was much faster than I anticipated. Given that the work we'd already done in agents creating content, making edit content, I thought was going to be a lot harder. So
Wow. So yeah, I think y'all knocked it out of the park, honestly, with the demo. So and I've shared it with some people. My sense is that it's gotten people excited, and I hope everybody has seen the Driesnote and specifically the AI pieces. I kind of wish he had sort of front loaded that, but he wanted to tell a whole story, which made sense. But I mean, honestly, that's one of the biggest kind of feature unveils I've seen at a Driesnote that I can remember in a very long time. I think the chatbot is perfect. And I love this agent approach. A lot of, I don't know why I didn't think of that, myself, just because I've been doing all of these AI experiments and I use Drush as the interface because that's an easy way to get started. And you have some additional access because you can do write access to files and things. But
yeah,
the chatbot thing in browser makes total sense. I mean, you can import configuration in memory, and so it doesn't have to even write to files necessarily.
yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I love it. Is the plan to ship it with Drupal CMS, like ship these
Yeah.
AI features?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everything we saw in the Driesnote. There's a couple of the more advanced ones that are more aspirational. But the basic ones that you saw in the demo are, they're definitely going to be in Starshop.
Yeah, so that's amazing, and I think that it makes me a lot more excited about Starshot as a product. So, and I've been following along the Starshot updates. I think it's good. Recipe stuff makes sense. There's
Mm,
nothing that just like knocked me over that's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever.
yeah,
But the AI stuff has potential to be a real needle mover,
yeah,
like big time. The demo was great. It opened people's eyes. There's so much you can do for it. A really exciting concept to me that Dries mentioned is modules adding their own agents. So
yeah,
control modules, because the agent is, you're plugging into your kind of abstract AI layer, but you're
mm,
able to tap in and say, okay, I maintain this contributed module. I'm going to make this agent very aware of whatever my module does, and then interact with that without having to do all the other AI stuff because you're just leveraging it as like a API or something. And then, man, that could really unlock a lot of cool stuff.
mm. It's one of the reasons why I'm particularly excited by Drupal and AI, and I think Drupal and AI will like maybe take over the world compared to a lot of other ecosystems, because when you actually look at what we're doing with these agents and the work, the underlying framework behind them was hard, but the thing of getting it to work for views is going through every single function that exists in Drupal and then allowing the AI agent to interact with that function through, I don't know, JSON or YAML or something, and then writing something that describes to the AI what the function does, what the parameters it is, and how
Yeah,
it's
that's
supposed to
function
be used.
calling, right?
It's essentially function calling. It's just
Okay.
function calling, but deeper because it's in the same software that you're currently using. But it's not that different to real, you're just standard function calling that you get with OpenAI. And so because of that, the actual module developers, they already have to write those functions. They already have to make it so forms can interact with everything they do, that everything else in Drupal can interact with everything they do. So it's just about essentially better documentation. If you just have better documentation, the AI can know how to use it. And now you have an agent. And within a few hours of the stuff going live. We had someone in the community contribute an agent that could turn modules on and off and install them, which was really cool. It was just like a proof of concept. And I do think that that's something that you're going to want to think about when it comes to security. But
Well, right.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is I didn't know Marcus moves so fast that sometimes he does things I just didn't know were there. But I was planning our big thing this week was to make agents work with Drupal permissions, but apparently it already does. I haven't seen it myself, but if you can actually assign roles, I think, to agents. That's the plan I want to do anyways. Make it so that agents can have roles, and then they can have permissions assigned to them. And then they also respect the user's permissions. So you have to have both levels. And if you ask the agent to do something, firstly, are you allowed to do it? And is the agent allowed to do it? If yes, then it goes through. Otherwise, no. And that's so cool compared to other ecosystems because we've got a huge collection of permissions, modules that interact with each other, a Drupal.org. And so what will happen, I'm hoping, is when this stuff gets stable, everyone will be able to write their own agents for their own module. There won't be a special agents module. Well, there will be an agents module, but there won't be agent views like we have now, agents taxonomy. It's just
Right.
baked into views, baked into taxonomy. And then you install a module and your AI will be able to interact with it. I think it's so cool.
Man,
So,
that's
yeah.
incredible. So I've got to look into this because I've been doing all these AI experiments. So
Yeah.
I really want to try to match kind of what I've been doing in my approach, and then now I've got to learn this other kind of approach, which I think is a lot better. But then it's going to get me thinking. So here is my question: is the code like public somewhere for all this
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. So the AI module is just project/AI,
Okay,
and the
so
agents
I
is
know about
project
that.
slash AI_agents.
Okay, so that's AI. So I'm familiar with AI module, and then AI agents has all the new stuff. Does that include the little chat pop up, or is that a later thing?
Do you want me to take you through it? I can at least,
Yeah,
even if the site's broken, I can show you a couple of things to
yeah. Go ahead and
show
show
you
me.
what's going on. Yeah. Right.
Okay, let me add this to the stage. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So this is the AI agents module. Yeah, because we were keeping everything secret, we like hid what it did quite a bit. It was called AI agents. We didn't put very much effort into it. But we will be improving the AI agents page a bit,
Yeah,
quite a bit. So yeah, if you go to this and let's look at the structure of the modules, configuration. Why can't I see? Oh, there we go. System. Nope. Extend. Okay, there we go.
yeah.
I'm not used to Gin yet. I've been playing around with older ones. So yeah. So if we look at AI, so you can see the AI core module, which you might be familiar with,
Yeah.
and the other ones that come along with it. So the new things is we got AI search, which is for RAG and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here's all the providers. And then we got this thing called the Assistance API, AI agents, and an AI chatbot. And the thought process behind Assistance is something similar to like OpenAI assistants or GPTs or co-pilots. You're seeing that all over the place where the AI community tried plugins where they would have this one, ChatGPT search, thousands of plugins, and then suddenly the AI was enabled to do millions of things. And we found that didn't quite work out. AI wasn't very good at figuring out which of the plugins to pick from when you get to a certain number. And what people found was better is the concept of like a GPT or the assistants or I think Claude calls it platforms, where you have like a very simple chatbot that has a custom instruction for the task it has. It has maybe its own RAG, so it's got its own data set that it can call upon to solve its problems. And then it has some functions and function calling that it can do. And it's curated and carefully thought through. So that was my idea behind the Assistance API, is we kept creating these search RAG systems in Drupal, and there's loads of them. There's like 7 or 8 that I know of. And they all have features that they can't share with each other in any way. And there's all these different chatbots. And I thought, like, what I want to do is bring all the configuration and the logic of how the chatbot works into one place. But then you can have a pluggable front end. So if we go into configuration AI, yeah, there was first. Do we need to go to search first? No, let's just go straight to assistance. So we got this Drupal agent assistant. The UI we need to work on a lot. my goal, my dream always is to make it something so that a non-developer can do all the things that they need to do. And right now that's not the case. So at the moment we just dumped all the settings in a long page.
Yeah.
But we got this Drupal agent assistant. It's got a description, and that will become useful later on when we have this being used to create your own agents that can then talk to other agents. So you can have agents calling agents, call agents, call agents.
Boy.
But the description will be really important for AI to understand what it does. We got session history. The goal is that at the moment it just stores a history in your session. The goal is that you'll have database ones, storing it in RAG, summarizing as you go along, etc. Then you have this pre-prompt system role, pre-prompt instructions, and then you've got this enabling the AI agents. So you can see like which ones we're allowed for this. Assistant message, there's a lot of different pre-prompt things. So it says here, poems database and chat thread. So there's a few things that we probably need to work on because it's not poems. Answer truthfully, yeah. When you get a system message, also from RAG and use them in your answer. Okay. Which LLM are you using? So you can have OpenAI, a whole bunch of them, provider configurations. Then advanced settings, you have this pre-action prompt. And this is kind of mimicking the system prompt that OpenAI and Claude have.
Yeah.
You know how like in chat, like somehow OpenAI decides when it's going to make you an image using DALL-E or something. And we're trying to mimic that here, where you say, if they ask you to do this. And so one thing about the old way we did RAG is you take a user prompt. I'd first take a user prompt, embed it, search for it, get all the chunks back, send it to the LLM, give me an answer. But now we have 2 LLM calls at least. So now what happens is, for RAG, is I type in my question. It goes to an LLM that has this prompt. And that first LLM is trying to decide, what do I do with this? I can go to RAG. I can go to one of the functions. I can go to one of the agents. Or I can just reply. And then if it replies, it won't use JSON, and the chatbot will know to just start outputting it. But if it starts replying with any JSON, instead of streaming the answer, it will wait, get it, and then do an action with it, like do a RAG search or do something on your Drupal site. Then it'll get a result back to the LLM, and then the LLM responds. So this pre-prompt here, you can see we show it to you, is long, and you can only edit it in config right now, because if you mess this around, the whole thing just breaks.
Yeah.
But in reality, this is too confusing. There's so many pre-prompt instructions, system role, this one. There's a lot of work we need to do to make this assistance nicer. And then the chatbot itself is just a block. So block layout. And you can see where's the I don't know where. Oh, it's in Chin maybe. Yeah, there you go. There you go. There's the chatbot. And if we configure it, we have to choose which assistant we use. So it's got a name, and this is where you can change like the styling of it, etc., and where it appears.
Is it using any public chat, chatbot JavaScript based thing, or did y'all create one?
I think it is. We've put like the tiniest amount of effort into the chatbot itself. We're not really front-end devs, so our main focus has been the assistants and then making it pluggable. And then the dream is that people start contributing them. So there was another module we made called the OpenAI Assistance module. Robert Costello made it with us, and he put a lot more effort into the chatbot, making it, making it a lot smoother. We have put a lot more effort in the last few weeks, so now it does streaming better. There were some little weird oddities. But I'm really hoping this is something that someone in the community will take on and make the chatbot really sing, and also make a few. We've got someone who suggests they're going to, they run a larger company, so they can throw money around a bit, and they're going to pay for somebody to build a Clippy chatbot.
That's hilarious. Well, I thought, chatbots work pretty good, even when they're simple. That's fine. Like, that's a good place to start. I've played around with some, React ones that are the full GPT type experience, and they do more formatting and stuff like that. So, there's probably already a lot out there.
Yeah.
As far as for the front end component, but yeah, the back end pieces are a lot more important at the moment. So yeah, that's really exciting. Now, you mentioned think maybe before the call, I don't remember if we mentioned on the call, but that I should definitely talk to Marcus about some of the technical pieces, because I'm very much interested in looking at the code and walking through every single piece slowly to kind of digest, because I'm very curious on the approach, because I've had my own approach leans a lot on function calling and just creating a bunch of functions, and the AI does really well with that. It can automatically figure out which function to call. You can explicitly tell it, no, I want you in this prompt, I want you to specifically call this function. I'm interested in how y'all handle the AI returning configuration. So
Yeah,
like there's a couple of approaches that I've tried. um so so example, let's say you want an AI model to generate some configuration for Drupal, whatever it is. Well, there's a
yeah,
couple ways to do that. You can one way or another get it to literally give you the YAML configuration and hope that works out okay. You can
yeah,
feed it a lot of example configurations, so on and so forth. I've done that. You can also do like kind of like pseudo code kind of stuff, or simplify the structure. So you could say, well, I know what I'm trying to accomplish. Let's say a content type and field. So I can describe in a much simpler kind of object structure what I want. So like the name of the content type, the description, an array of fields, the name of the field, the type of the field, and so it's so that the AI has less to do and think about, and maybe it's a little bit more robust that way.
yeah,
And then on in your local function or whatever, then you interpret that, and then you do all the extra code that really generates the configuration and imports and all that stuff.
yeah.
So I'd be really curious to know kind of what y'all's approach is. My guess is that you're doing some stuff that's pretty different than my approach. So I'm really curious to dig into that at some point.
Yeah, let me just quickly share the screen. I don't know if this constantly swapping back to it is cool, but um, yeah. So this is the AI. Oh, it's not.
Yeah, you gotta share it.
Shared it now. Uh, yeah, I think you need to make it
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
screen.
Sorry, I was in it. I was expanded. Okay. Yep.
There you go. So this is configuration AI settings, AI agent settings. And I have not gone through this on a fine tooth comb, but you can see all the different agents that you have access to. The idea is that you're going to be able to click find agents, but to work with the project browser, and then create automated custom agents that you program yourself, not program, like prompt it yourself, so an end user can do it. But let's look at one of them. So this one here is, yeah, the field type agent. And you can see there's a bunch of different steps. So it's figuring out the steps of like, um, uh, uh, you're going to be given like a list of all the different fields, and you have to like pick one of them. And then these are the answers you can give. And then if you go down at the bottom, this is like you are developing generate fields for entity types. You know, this is a curated list of third-party ones. So these are all the different places where there's sort of the prompts that trying to find out how we get it to give us an answer. The goal is that we're going to have the Explorer working. So if you saw here, it might even work now. Explore. Let's try this. So let's say give me a list of ways of categorizing a wine tour. And I think this will then allow us to see if this works. No, okay. Okay, we need to work on that one a little bit. Marcus, by the way, he's set up fixing this, and the reason why is just the agents weren't all enabled. So we just need better error handling.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
see if we've got one of the simpler ones. Node content to explore. See if this one will work. Create me a content type for recipes. I want toddler desserts. I don't know. This might not work because it doesn't have all the Okay, recipes already exist. Okay,
Oh, it
give
already
me
exists.
a book review content type that is for old books. I don't know. So I think this will then show you.
Okay.
Okay, it didn't really. I wanted it to show me the thing. I think maybe if we turn logging. I mean, I think get Marcus to come on and then he can help you. I think if we turn logging on, you can actually see the prompt. But I
Okay.
think it's somewhere in between the two. So when I first started doing this, um, I did do it the way that the first one. You get the YAML and you just use the importer,
Yeah.
and I kept getting like the body field, whether or not the body field was body underscore underscore value or body, was causing loads of problems. So I'd
Yeah.
have like 8,000 word characters or something, and one word would get it wrong, and the
Yep.
whole importer would break. So this is something more like we define. You can answer for this, and
Yeah.
every single prompt has a very small set of tasks that it's allowed to do. And it does it in little chunks, and that then helps it do this. So if it has to, create 20 different vocabularies, it's not one massive prompt. It's doing that thing 20 times and has a very small subset of answers it can give. So yeah, I would say it's
Yeah, I
more like
like
your
that.
second than the first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm really interested to dive in at some point and play around with it, but the key thing is going to be making it robust enough that people will use it.
Mm,
Obviously, if it breaks a lot, and in my experience doing so many of these AI experiments is that it's hard to make it robust depending on what it's doing. And then it's frustrating, and then you never leave the stage of experiment to actual let's get work done. And so I definitely
mm,
like if try to limit it a little bit, put up some guardrails, and then you're able to get a much more consistent, response. And you're also making it um, model agnostic. So some models are better and smarter than others, but you still want some semblance of consistency in what it's doing. And so yeah, trying to limit it a little bit can help it to be more robust.
Well, one thing that is quite nice about the abstraction layer is what we try to do is make it so that the model providers, the humans who write the provider modules for the AI module, have to put some effort into describing what that model does. Um, and so one thing that I have as a flag on a particular model, we borrowed from like the search API way of doing things, where like the same thing happens, where you can have different backends for search, they have
Mhm.
different features, and then things built on top of it will know that you've got a backend that doesn't support that, and it will turn helpful errors, or functionality will work, but in slightly
Right.
different ways. And so one of the flags I've got is like, can it output JSON? Because some of the smaller models, I mean, smaller models way back like 2 months ago, like now the smaller models are getting really good, but some of them were bad at outputting JSON. So
Oh
you
yeah,
get it to try
for
and do
sure.
some automation. And it was quite good at making a decision, but it would too often say, yeah, sure, I'll do that for you, and then give you the JSON, or the JSON will be broken in one or two ways. And so we now you flag that. So if you try and use the agents and you select one of those models, you'll get errors saying it's unlikely to work. Um, and same thing with context windows. Like a lot of that metadata about the model will go into the provider settings that will tell the rest of the system information about that. So then hopefully your modules that you've built on top of the AI module is will then be able to intelligently figure out, oh, this is not going to work. You're asking to upload an image and you don't have an image. Yeah, you don't have an image based model with
Right.
vision, a multimodal one or something. So that's some way that we put guardrails along there. But the big problem with the agent stuff is that it's so flexible. Getting it set up correctly is hard. So in this case, it was just like a setting. We hadn't done the settings properly. We hadn't done good enough errors yet. So my hope is, particularly once we got it into Drupal CMS itself, and you install it, and it's just there instead of a branch. Um, yeah, then we're going to have a lot more people testing it, and we can make it a lot more robust.
Oh yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, I'm so excited about that because that's such a critical piece. Is you need a lot of people testing it in a million different ways,
Mm,
doing different models, doing things in an unexpected way, and
yeah.
then you're really going to get some good bug reports and be able to fix a lot of problems. So one thing I wanted to bring up that's related is because there's so much you can do with this is I was just thinking back to this last weekend. My daughter keeps wanting me to build this babysitter website thing for her. And so I finally, okay, like, well, what's the fastest, website builder thing? So I'm like, okay, Wix.com is popular. And so I hadn't played around with that in forever. So I pulled it up, and of course there's like AI all over the place. And it's not like this bolted on, every product is trying to like bolt on AI, even if it's not useful. It's like, no,
Yeah.
man, the AI stuff is great. And it's exactly what you need, because even a user friendly site builder is still kind of overwhelming to
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Because I've played around on Squarespace, and they try to make things pretty easy, but even for me, like, I'm like a senior, developer, but it's like, I don't know this interface. Okay, how do I do this? And it usually takes you a while. Well, so it's so cool that like you have this AI prompt right from the get-go. It's like what type of site you're building. So you just have this little chat, it sets you up with all this good stuff, and then you have kind of your good starter template, and then you're like going through and filling things out. And so my 10-year-old's like figuring, I had her do a lot of it, and she's like figuring it out within minutes. She's writing the little content, because she would have a little AI prompt for the content. So like, okay, just like you would ChatGPT, it's like you wanted to write a little blurb in some section. The little
Yeah.
AI thing does that, obviously spits out great copy. And so she was real proud. She had built this whole homepage thing using all these AI agents. I'm like, man, this is great. And there's no reason you couldn't have something just like that for Drupal at some point, which is, what if you had the very first step is like, because we're already doing like this recipe stuff. And what if you're immediately, you have this AI chatbot experience with what type of site you're building. Well, I'm building this type of site. Okay. And then it does all this stuff for you. It can start simple, but then over time, as we're able to like add features and all this stuff, it gets more and more like sophisticated as to what you can do. It's not just like, maybe early on, it's just kind of picking which recipe you're using, and it's doing some like light stuff. Content generation's pretty easy, but then, I mean, it's unlimited, like what you could make it do over time. So just thinking about that has me excited.
Yeah, so two demos I'd really like to be able to do it might not be like fully, production ready, but by RC1 of Drupal CMS in Singapore. Is one of them is I really want Figma to Drupal. So they're working on the experience builder. There's already, I know you've been working on this kind of stuff. There's storybooks, a lot of people working in the storybooks world. And we've done and Marcus did some demos a long time ago with layout paragraphs and using AI for that. But one of the things that people are really pushing in the Starshop community is this experience builder. Really want that to work, where we'll have something where there is a front end to Drupal where you can customize the theme as a non-developer pretty well. But as you said with Squarespace, pretty well is never going to be good enough for what the designers actually want, because the designers live in Figma right now. That's what they want. They want that flexibility. Yes. And so one thing that might make Experience Builder a lot easier is if you had something that was like, most of the configuration you need to do wasn't in files, which obviously when you're doing stuff with Drush, you can do stuff with files, but it's in some kind of config that builds everything together. Like all the important variables for your Bootstrap theme are stored somewhere on your database. And you have an AI theme that just calls those variables and then generates them and then caches them, etc. So one of our ideas is if we could have like Figma to Drupal, where it like created an experience builder. One is it would make experience builder a lot more usable, a lot faster, yes. Because they don't have to actually build every single UI for every single element you'd ever want to change and figure that out. Two, it means that the end user can live in their space that they care about, like the Figma, which is where they live now, the marketers and the designers, and they can make changes in Figma and then re-upload it and then see that change in Drupal. And then, I think I've always found with Drupal sites, like, there's so much cool stuff it can do, but the thing that always gets in the way is that it just looks so ugly out of the box. It doesn't really fit with your brand and your color scheme and what you want. And you have to get a developer to do that for you. And then the costs start spiraling, because now I need Drupal developers who are trained in this specific thing with a specific way of doing stuff. So I think Figma to Drupal will be really important. And then the other one is I wanted to, in our recipe demo, we were thinking about like adding reviews, and reviews are a little bit more complicated than we can do with pure agents, because it's not just a new content type. It's a content type that is intrinsically connected to an event. you're going to want a UI where the create a new review is on the event, like more like a comment is, rather than in the normal create content screen. You're going to want moderation on those views. You're going to want like various features. And there's already a reviews module that you can just attach to any content type.
Yeah.
And it's fairly simple to set up. You install it, you click enable reviews, you click the content types you want to appear. Do you want moderation or not? So it's relatively simple. But like for Sarah, that's still too complicated because the whole point is we want someone who doesn't have to know any of that. But it's a relatively simple thing for an agent to do. There's not that many settings. It's not that hard for the reviews module to have a quick start guide that is human readable and also AI readable that can take it through. What are the important settings you have to do to get started? What are the things you have to think about? Why would you choose this one or that one? And so I'm hoping that we could do something by December where we have like a RAG system that is working with a project browser. You type in, I want to do this. It finds the module for you. It knows about how to configure that and the agent information because it's stored on the module itself. It pulls that module in, creates a recipe for you because it's not going to be writing any code. It's just going to be configuring things in a recipe, which is much more easy for an AI to do well. And then it's also a bit safer because the only abilities it can do is whatever the module can do. And recipes have like the ability to roll them back. It's not quite as much as I want it to be there yet. It's mainly for like if the recipe fails, you can roll back. But I think we could have it so it's a bit more than that you can roll it back for other reasons. And I think that would be so powerful. Then you can have an AI creating tool like the Wix experience. But it's not just Drupal. It's not just Wix. It's calling upon everything that exists in the Drupal ecosystem and then making it look good, which was always hard when you install some new module that just adds a weird form to a random place. You don't understand how you improve that. And then I think Drupal is it's going to be so powerful.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, there's really, I mean, it's unlimited. I mean, to your point, the Figma thing is huge. Got to figure. My issue with Figma is that you're kind of limited in how things are organized. If you want to and structure it inside of Figma, if you want to make use of it outside of Figma. And so that's like a difficult problem to solve, although I think it needs to get solved. For me, what's kind of interesting is that you can get a lot from just straight up images.
Yeah.
So it's like the Figma API doesn't have to be good. It's like, okay, just get the JPEG of the Figma and then AI can figure out a lot of stuff from that. Now, I plan to do a lot of work in that area. So I've been working a lot on the Drupal X distribution, which has two flavors, spending a lot of time in the decoupled, flavor of it, and really wanting it to be a lot easier for developers, a great developer experience, leveraging the latest front end stack and the Shadsian like components and all that stuff, and so that AI can do a lot of the work for you. And so I plan on doing some more demos around that, where it's like you take an image, it's got the branding, it's got the different components. I'm busy working on trying to expand the library of components that ship to be a lot of the common components so that it can handle a lot of use cases without creating new components. Because what I would do is say, okay, we got this image, it's got a lot of components on it. A lot of those can map to something I have. And so arrange it like the image, pull in all the branding and get as close to that as possible. Yeah. And maybe it gets 80% of it, but that'd be like a great place to start. And so, I'm really excited about what you can do with that, what you can do with like content generation stuff. I mean, sky's the limit for all of this.
Yeah. What we found about the Figma stuff, like, as you said, you can do a lot with just a pure image. And so what we find is like we do both. So it's a hybrid of you export a screenshot of the Figma file, which is just an image. You export, there's an open source plugin called Figma to Code. So you export that, the output of that, which gives you some, I think it gives you some Twig, I think it gives you some CSS and HTML. It might be just be CSS and HTML. And then by using both, what that means is you can have most of it figured out by the image, but then the code can help you get things closer to pixel perfect because you now know exactly what the color is. You know exactly what the margins are. So I think it's that blend of the two is the thing that I think is quite powerful, especially with these newer models. I mean, it's going to be pretty expensive with a 1.0, but like a lot of the stuff we've built, like the migrations demo that we showed was like 10% accurate when we first did it. And then only 2 weeks ago, 1.0 came out and it went up to 100%. And we haven't found it failed yet.
Which model? The one or the
Oh one,
new
sorry, oh one.
oh one,
Yeah,
yeah.
the new
Yeah, the
OpenAI one,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
haven't actually tried that one because I wasn't sure if I have access to it. I do have OpenAI credits, but I
You
didn't
need a
see if
$1,000.
it's like $1,000.
You need to put $1,000 credit in, then you get bumped up
Oh,
to
okay,
tier
okay.
5, and then you get
Yeah.
access.
So my
You have to
$5
spend that.
credit isn't good enough for that then?
Yeah, you need
Well,
the.
it's
We were
crazy
on
is
the
that
tier 4, but we were like, I was like, when I saw it come out, I was like, I need this as
well, I
quickly as
mean, here's
possible.
the crazy thing is, you know, there's so much that will be cheaper to leverage AI for a lot of stuff as opposed to having a bigger team with different people. So it makes you have less people and lean on AI for certain things, and then you can still do stuff better, faster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. So that scares some people, but it's also going to make us more productive. So yeah, I mean,
Well, I can give you a limited API key so you can try out one with your
well,
models if you want.
I know
But
I've
I've got to
been
spend
eager to
that
look
credits,
at
those
that, but
credits.
I'm super impressed even with just the models I have access to. I'm a big Claude guy. I love all the Claude models. I used the Haiku one for a lot because it's so cheap and yet it can get a lot done. Um, and then the Sonnet is their like flagships. And so there's so much cool stuff. The Llama models were really good, and there's going to be a lot of providers for that, and so much of it is going to be so cheap or free. But
Mm.
it's great
Yeah,
because
well,
yeah. But I mean, with
well, a
this
good.
one thing, it's going to be a scenario where it's like, okay, well, I've got to spend some money on that, but like, it might be more cost effective to do that than add an additional developer to the team. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, you've got 3 or 4 people on a project team. Well, the fourth or fifth person is so you allocate some costs for these advanced models, and then that might be a better overall fit for what you're trying to do on a project. I think that's just
Mm.
going to be the reality. They're so cheap and accessible to anybody, whether you're like freelancer, small agency, whatever, or big enterprise. I mean, everybody has access to this stuff.
Yeah, so we've got a number of people in the AI module maintainership, and they're not all in freely give. And so Michael is who's SEL Girl. I would say he's doing like the coolest, the most like cutting edge stuff with AI. Some of the clients that he's working with, he's working a lot with Llama Index and Python, and so he's really pushing how far AI can go with things. And so he opened my eyes up to the new way of doing AI search that we've got, like what I told you, where we have an AI figure out what you do first before it goes in. Then the traditional thing, which I'm hearing is now called like naive rag. And just today, he was telling me about how he strongly believes like Phi, the open source model from Microsoft, that's really tiny. It's not really tiny. It's like 3.8 billion parameters.
Okay. Yeah.
Is actually really good for this like agent automated stuff, especially when you fine tune it. So I've been told generally fine tuning is a waste of time, but when you get smaller and smaller models, fine tuning becomes more and more of a thing.
Yeah.
So his belief is that if we like went really far with these agents, we would, because we got all these people trying it out. If we got a bunch of people to just try it out and be okay with their prompts being like stored, we could then build that as training data. And he said a very small amount of training data on Phi can fine tune it and make it get it to like 80% accuracy, which is not as good as 100%, but it can run on your laptop. It's
Yep.
optimized for NVIDIA stuff. It can run on a phone. And so then we could have it so that like it's not, you install Starshot. There is some work for running AI in WebAssembly. I don't know how fast that will be, but you could install Starshot and have a model running in your browser. Like your Chrome is actually running the model, never leaving your place, and it's this fine-tuned Phi model, and that could be really cool as an alternative to the approach of using the kind of more expensive ones. And then you use O1 or Claude when you really need good quality reasoning.
Yeah.
Because can you install this module, like uninstall or install it like itself? It's not there's not very many options it can pick from. So it should be
Well, yeah,
easier. So I think, yeah, that's kind of interesting, I think.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done with the small models, and so that'll be accessible for people. And then the even the well known models are going to be, because it's so competitive, which is great for the whole ecosystem, that you're still going to have a lot of sophisticated models that are so cheap that they're either free or close to cheap. Like, for example, I do a lot of AI experiments all the time, but I mean,
Yeah,
I milk these really low credit things where I've got like $5 credit, and I mean that'll last for months depending on what you're
yeah,
doing. And you're still accessing pretty powerful models, and so yeah, the future's bright. It's very exciting.
yeah. Yeah, I'm very intrigued about where this is all going to go. I
And
also got
it's
the advanced mode on ChatGPT recently, just last night. It enabled it. That's so cool. Have you heard about
so
the
what is
advanced
the
voice
advanced
mode? The advanced voice mode, so it's like an
Oh,
immediate.
voice mode. Okay, yeah. Well, that's
So that's
another
cool.
thing we need to get going. So, do you envision? So speaking of, do you envision like a voice mode thing that could?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got the providers there. So OpenAI and all of them have a voice model, and they all work with the providers. So the underlying structure of it is there. It's just a case of there's so many things we can do, you know, and which one do we focus
Well,
on? But I do
so
think that would be a cool demo.
you need to be able to capture your audio. Um, so I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting because yeah, I've been thinking about, oh, okay, how do I do that? Because it'd be cool to have. My guess is that there's already some of these. Because I do a lot of these stretch experiments. I'm guessing that one of these terminals probably already have a voice input thing, which might be all I need just to have, just instead of typing, just do voice. I'm like, I don't think I'd need to build anything different if I just the terminal I use might already have a voice feature. At which point I'm just going to start using. I need to play around with that because
Yeah.
it's just neat when you like tell it to do stuff without even typing anything.
Yeah, like I said, we got the underlying structure to make it work in our agent chatbot. So it'll probably only take a couple of hours to get it working, and then you'll be able to do it where everything that you saw in the Driesnote demo, you just talk to it, and it will then start building your site for you. Um, and we'll if nobody else in the community builds that, then we'll do it at some point because I still think it'll be such a cool demo to like command your Drupal site into existence.
Oh man. I mean, this is great. This is exactly to me what Drupal community needs. So it's
Mm,
Drupal, has spent such a long time building a solid foundation, and now we're able to take advantage of it with this new
mm,
tech. So it being built the right way is going to pay off big time. So um, for my part, I'm definitely interested in trying to help with these tools and leverage them and do all that kind of stuff. I'm also trying to just, see how it applies to stuff that I'm working on, because my focus more recently has been trying to graduate from experiment to what are things that could actually get work done. And
mm,
so my first thing that I built, I'm trying to do kind of like you mentioned, trying to narrow kind of what the thing can do to make it more like reliable. So even though
mm,
I've got this module that can just do a chat and it can kind of do anything, it's like hard to make that reliable. So I built the first feature I built for Drupal X was a paragraph importer. So my
mm,
my thought is a good workflow for front end devs is, and I'm specifically to the decoupled one, but this would apply to the non-decoupled one to some extent. A good workflow is have AI build you a nice component, tell it to use ShadCN because that's what I use. For Sells AI product, vo.dev natively kind of produces that type of code, which plugs right into my decoupled starter. So I picture, okay, that's a good workflow for creating the component. And then I'll have commands that add extra stuff. The first one is an importer that you select the component, it builds out the paragraph piece for you and all the integration pieces, because we're trying to make it less painful and more enjoyable for the developer just to get work done. It's like, okay, I built this component and I need to integrate it with the Drupal backend. It's not always the most straightforward thing, especially if you're new. It can be error prone, so on and so forth. So just use a little bit of AI and automation make that painless. And then I also plan on making some additional commands for things like where you build out the component, you want to edit to Storybook. AI does that really well. Just say, oh, here's my new component, create the Storybook. Do that. Maybe have the opportunity to fix any bugs or something. So maybe a little bit of back and forth to get it perfect. And then the same thing with Cypress. So I like to add Cypress tests for any of the new components, especially the ones that are exposed to the editor. And so say, okay, create a Cypress test for this, make sure it works, and then you move on to the next thing. So I could picture a whole array of things. And again, trying to make it a little bit more narrow, just so like we're saying, so that it's not a thing where it works 50% of the time, but like you really want it that, to me, you want it at least like 90% of the time that it works well with a lot of different models. And so that's where my mind is at the moment.
Yeah, when it comes to stuff that is working in the real world for like actual clients, and we're trying to get it something close to production ready, well, I'm finding agents is really cool and exciting, but the automators stuff that we built is much more likely to produce genuine value for someone very quickly. And so one example with the automators that we've been exploring is like, if you've got like an online community, you'll tend to have these bots, like things to stop bots, spam protection, type in a weird number from an image, etc. And they're getting worse and worse and worse because bots are getting better and better at getting past them. And actually, some companies are just paying humans to be these massive bot farms, and then you can't really stop them. And so one of the ideas we had is like, what you could do is you could use AI to take every comment and analyze its relevancy to the original post. And we started writing these prompts and trying to make it so that we would like give it examples and define what do we mean about what's a 0, what's a 2, 4. Make it come up with a status of immediate block, get a moderator to look at it. This is as good as the original post. And that's interesting because it's a very different way of looking at spam protection, of not how do we stop spam, but how do we find the good content. And you couldn't do that before, but you can with AI. And if you have a bot that writes an unbelievably amazing, I still think you'd want to know if it was a human or a bot, but in some degree, if you had something that wrote an amazing analysis of this book that you're discussing online forum, then do you need to get rid of it as much as the people who are just like selling Bitcoin or giving weird links to something, etc. And it could do really cool things. Like it would do things like you'd post a link and you'd say like, this author also posted this link, and it would look at the URL. So it wouldn't. We can make it so it would follow the URL and read the page, but even just looking at the URL, it could say things like, I rated it lower because they posted with no context about what's in there. It's it's 7 years out of date. So there's no reason why you ought to know it's relevant, but it does seem like a legit website. It does seem to be based around that thing, so it's higher up. And it could reason this out and show you the reasons. And I think things like that were way cooler. And they're very simple. They don't take very long to build. And then more importantly, they're really easy to test, because then you can get a human to go and evaluate all of these comments, which they might be doing anyway to some degree because they're moderating this area, compare it to AI and show, across like 100 comments, it gets it 95% accurate. And it doesn't matter that much of those wrong ones. So I think automators and AI search is what is easier to do now for a client that are going to pay you to do something real. Whereas the agent stuff, the thing that's cool about the agents is the long tail. It's like the people who are going to Wix, maybe they're going to start going to Drupal, and then suddenly they've got views. And we did build a views agent. So suddenly they're going to be able to type things, and they're going to be set up a whole views that can edit themselves. They're not going to have to deal with millions and millions of paid for WordPress widgets that don't interact with each other. It's just all the Drupal modules at their fingertips. And so somebody who's used to just Squarespace and Wix, they can have that experience for a simple site, but as their site grows, they can just grow with it by just adding cooler and cooler things to it. So that's kind of cool for agents, but that's like a cool vision rather than like something that someone would pay for now.
We'll see. You got to start somewhere. I mean, it's incredible. Again, we've said this a bunch, but the sky's the limit for all of this, But I know. So we've been talking for a while. We'll probably need to draw it to a close. I know you said I definitely would like to talk to Marcus and do kind of maybe like a code deep dive at some point
Yeah.
soon, because I bet he's chomping at the bit to talk stuff just like you were. And yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say? Here's one question to kind of close us out is how do people stay plugged into what's going on? Where do you like to post updates on
Yeah, just
progress?
to answer that one, I do really think like there's a lot of cool stuff happening at the moment, and I'm finding it very hard to like get the information out. So it's
Okay.
linked to your question, and so I'm really excited by. I'm more of a visual video-y person. I tend to
Mm.
watch podcasts where there's someone I can see them on YouTube rather than just listen to it.
Right.
Um, and so I'm super excited by producing any video content. So one of the ideas is like I don't know if you'd be interested, but you could, as you explore the AI module and find fine tooth comb, maybe like live stream it or something, have it somewhere. And if you told us that you were doing it, anytime you get really stuck, you could pull me or Marcus in to come in and help. I don't know if that would be interesting.
Yeah,
The other cool thing is that
maybe. I get
when you
I
make
get pretty frustrated. I might have to bleep out some words if I do that. 'Cause whenever
I mean, like,
whenever you tackle something completely new that you haven't looked at before, it can be frustrating. Sometimes it's great, but then sometimes I have played around with the AI module some, so I'm a little familiar, but I'm definitely not familiar with the agent stuff. So yeah, maybe I'll do that.
there are so many bits of it that are frustrating right now. Like we're working on those things, and
Oh
seeing
yeah.
your frustration would be so helpful improving it. Like feedback is exactly what we need. But right now, to answer your question directly,
Okay.
Hatched AI on Drupal Slack is the main place that we talk, and then the issue queues themselves is a big place that you can see everything. Everything's built in issue queues. I'm finding it even hard to keep up to date with everything that's going on. So I think one of the things I want to build soon is an AI thing that can read our Drupal issue queues and every
Mhm.
week summarize everything that has been done in a human readable language. Um, so, so there's
Well,
a few ideas.
do you post on social media much, like LinkedIn, or I don't know? Do you have a preferred social media where you kind of just summarize, what's been
Yeah,
going on?
LinkedIn's the main place, but I'm just
Okay.
not. I've never been that good at social media and keeping on top of things. So what I tend to do is like, when I make a video, I post the video on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and that gets quite a lot of responses. I do feel like I need to learn how to get better at it. But then again, if I make these video contents, I can get. We've already built like using automators. It took Marcus 20 minutes. You get a Drupal site that can go to a YouTube link, download it, transcribe it, get some key points, get 5 key quotes and the timestamp, and it's got a little player inside the Drupal site.
Wow.
You can click on it and listen to it, and then it would generate LinkedIn posts in the style of your organization that you feed into it. Styled to look like a LinkedIn post, and you can pick from a selection of them and
Wow.
then go for it. It took him like 20 minutes. Automators is so cool.
Yeah, Marcus, I feel like he's the brains of this operation. He's doing all this
Yeah.
amazing code stuff. Yeah, so I'm
Wonderful.
excited to meet him at some point. But yeah, okay, so yeah,
Cool.
but yeah, definitely, yeah, you need to post more video content. Maybe you'll automate some of it, but yeah, LinkedIn seems like a good place. I post a lot on there. I think people probably know that by now. I'll post this on LinkedIn, and then if you want to post it anywhere else, that'd be great as well. But so I just wanted to thank you for the conversation. Been good. We'll probably talk again at some point, just because this
Yep.
stuff evolves so much, like by the day. And
Yep.
so, yeah, definitely appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. So I'm Jay Calicott. Be sure to track all my updates on Drupal X AI on LinkedIn, and check out what Jamie's doing up on his LinkedIn and Slack and issue queues and all that stuff. And till next time, take care, everybody.
Speak to you soon.